Now, with the new 50T fund we have coming out, our view is that Bitcoin goes 10x from here in 10 years. We'll hit 1 million.
Bitcoin Zela stands out with its simplicity and clarity. We've crafted an experience that anyone can dive into, whether you're a crypto expert or just a new to the crypto world. Now guess who keeps his eye on us? The author of best-selling book Rich Dad Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki. And we want to take this opportunity and thank all the people who trusted us, and we read every comment. And the best part, it's free. Subscribing now means you will get all new information for free. Don't just follow the trends, stay ahead of them. Subscribe to Bitcoin Zela today and enjoy the new edge.
Dan Tapiero predicts Bitcoin hitting $1 million. He dives into crypto's future, major trends, and bold insights. Let's watch now.
I've been saying the same thing for 5 years. You can put your fund money into our funds. That's very nice, wonderful. But every investor, I say, you should have the same exposure. You should have Bitcoin, some exposure to Bitcoin, some Ethereum. You have a little bit of a venture fund and a little bit of a growth fund. And those 4 things, you can decide what percent you want. But if you have that exposure and you hold it for 10 years, I will guarantee you will make money. A guarantee. I can't say how many multiples. I don't know. But if you go back to 2019, I did that for our endowment, and I was able to convince the other committee members. I also had some help from an emeriti, a guy who also went to the school, who I brought in to help make the case, because the guys on the committee were like, Dan, you're crazy. So I needed some help, to go into Bitcoin. And in the middle of 2019, we bought Bitcoin ETH, and we did a little bit of a venture fund. There was no growth fund. So we actually did 2 small investments in a venture fund. It was $5 million. And I think today that's well over $60 million for that endowment from that school. It's now $750 million, the total endowment. So we have 1%.
10% almost.
Yeah. I mean, a little less. Yeah. So
Bitcoin has smashed through another milestone, climbing to an all-time high of over $118,000. This explosive move comes as institutional demand heats up, while U.S. equities retreat in response to President Trump's latest tariff measures. As traditional markets react to policy uncertainty, Bitcoin is asserting itself as a safe haven alternative, increasingly resilient to political noise and macroeconomic shocks. Unlike stocks or commodities tied to supply chains or earnings reports, Bitcoin's momentum is fueled by belief, capital, and a growing shift in perception. It's becoming more than just a speculative asset. It's a hedge, a portfolio diversifier, and increasingly, a strategic reserve, with more than $1.5 billion flowing into U.S.-listed Bitcoin ETF just this past week. Institutional confidence is rising fast. Even major firms like Japan's Metaplanet are ramping up their holdings, a strong signal that big players are in it for the long haul. Macro conditions continue to play in Bitcoin's favor. With falling Treasury yields and expectations of Federal Reserve rate cuts, the U.S. dollar has weakened, sending capital flowing into assets like Bitcoin that are seen as inflation hedges. Add to that the recent U.S. executive order recognizing Bitcoin as a national reserve asset, and you have a digital currency finally earning mainstream legitimacy. Where to next? Let's see.
When did you decide to go all in crypto? And
2018, 19.
why?
Well, so the market collapsed, as you remember, in 2017, peak, and it collapsed. And I'd seen that many times, where you'd have big bubbles and blow-offs and then a collapse. In the traditional markets, that happens all the time. And I thought, okay, well, Bitcoin was 3,000, 4,000, 5,000. I thought, well, it's either going to go to zero, and if it doesn't go to zero, it's the bottom and there's going to be huge upside. So as a trader, what you normally do is you start buying first. So I started buying at that time for myself. I convinced the school. I did other things. And then as you buy and your position gets bigger and it starts to work, you do more and more and more and more work. And, what I realized was that Bitcoin was many, many different things. A network, a new technology, a new system of value, so many different things. In fact, at the DAS conference just now, Michael Saylor spoke about his 21 points about Bitcoin. My original thoughts that I had and that I expressed in that 2019 interview with Raoul Pal that ended up getting hundreds of thousands of views. He has refined and expressed that 10x better than I did, and I sat there and I've heard him 50 times, but he keeps refining. He keeps explaining different aspects of Bitcoin that make it valuable and more valuable in his mind. And it's just such an excellent presentation. But look, I had a very simple epiphany. I was like, well, this is the only and sort of the greatest decentralized network ever built. At the time, I think Amazon was worth $1 trillion or $2 trillion or something like that. The value of Bitcoin at the time was 200 or 300 billion. So I thought to myself, okay, well, you have one company that sells stuff online that's worth 2 trillion. This is the greatest decentralized network ever built, never be built like to that degree ever again. It's got to be worth at least twice of Amazon. And so then that's part of the at least. So that was my initial, I had many, many points along the way that, gave me confidence to go all in, as you say. But it was that initial comparison as an investment compared to other investments that I saw that it was undervalued. And so my risk, I thought, was limited. And I thought, well, wow, it could be much more than that. And I thought, well, where could it really go over the next 10 years? And that's when I came up with the name 10T, which stands for 10 trillion. And at the time, the total space had $300 billion of value. And I said, I think it can 30x in 10 years. And I said, no one will ever believe that was my view unless I put it into the name of my fund. And so that's why, and today we're at 5T. 5 trillion is the value of Bitcoin, ETH. All the alt and all of the equity in the space, our sort of internal assessment is 5 trillion. So for our fifth fund, there's no way, that can't be 10T. It'll be One Roundtable partners rolling out our 50T fund. Because I think 10 years from now, Bitcoin, we can hit 1 million, which is just really a 10x. It's not so big. Then that's 20 trillion. And then I have the alt coins will be 10 trillion. And then I think the equity in the space and anything that touches blockchain from a business perspective will be 20 trillion. That's what I think. All of the scaffolding, all the blockchain use cases, all of the integration of payments, everything you can think of, integration of media and NFTs and everything. I think that's another 20 trillion. So that's where I have 50T now, I think, in the next 10 years. We really accelerate, and it's now we have the real catalyst for the first time ever, which is the government change here.
Speculation exploded across the crypto community this week after strange on-chain messages claimed control over early Bitcoin wallets, some possibly linked to Satoshi Nakamoto. The messages, broadcast on July 1 via OP_Orituren data, included the chilling line, "We have taken possession of this wallet and its contents." Given that the transactions involved early P2 PKH addresses commonly used during Bitcoin's infancy, rumors quickly spread that Satoshi's own holdings, estimated at nearly 1 million BTC, might have been compromised. Ripple CTO David Schwartz quickly stepped in to address the buzz. He offered a more grounded take, suggesting the activity is likely either a wallet recovery attempt disguised as something bigger, or someone exploiting weak private key generation from Bitcoin's earliest days. Neither case, he says, points to a flaw in Bitcoin's cryptographic core. Despite the attention, there's still no sign that any of Satoshi's known wallets have moved. And there's zero evidence that Bitcoin's security has been breached. What this situation does highlight, however, is the ongoing risk tied to older, poorly generated keys, some of which could eventually be claimed by opportunists. For now, Bitcoin remains secure, but the crypto world is reminded once again, strong key management and modern wallet practices are more crucial than ever in this evolving landscape. And do not forget to subscribe to Bitcoin Zela for daily news all for free. That's all for today's video. Until next time.